will drink the cup, the poison overflowing. I will lift you up, watch over where you're going. The first one in, the last one gone. I'll be the rock to stand upon for you, for you. My spirit aches, and I can't stop this river flowing. In fear I take each labored breath I draw in, knowing that this could be my life, my final hour. But faith and hope and love give me the power for you, for you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. You are with me. I'll be your salvation, though the storms surrounding. There are no conditions, lay my body down. In the wake, abandoned, willing sacrifice, I'll walk through the canyon, bring the shadows light. For you, for you. I will drink the cup, the poison overflowing. I will lift you up, watch over where you're going. The first one in, the last one gone. I'll be the rock to stand upon. The first one in, the last one gone. I'll be the rock to stand upon for you, for you, for you, for you, for you.
She lays awake in a silent room, holding his picture washed silver by the moon. Oceans away, he feels her sigh. So alone in the world tonight. Freedom son. Too young to know his daddy's gone. He hears them say his mother must be strong. So he pretends like children do. He likes to stand in his daddy's shoes. Freedom needs a soldier, a nameless, faceless one, a young girl's lover, a baby's father, some mother's son. Your freedom needs a soldier until the battle's won. A young girl's lover, a baby's father, some mother's son. She closes her eyes and sees him at 3. In her mind, that's the age he'll always be. And only God understands her love. Now she prays to the angels up above. Freedom needs a soldier, that nameless, faceless one, a young girl's lover, a baby's father, some mother's son. Freedom needs a soldier until the battle's won. A young girl's lover, a baby's father, some mother's son. Yeah.
When you are a soldier, I will be your shield, and I will go with you into the battlefield. And when the arrows start to fly, take my hand and hold on tight, 'cause I will be your shield when you are a soldier. And when you're tired from running, I will cheer you on. Look beside you and you'll see you're not alone. And when all of your strength is gone, I'll carry you until you're strong, and I will be your shield when you are a soldier. fight with you to the end. And when you're lost in darkness, I will hold the light, and I will help you find your way through the night. And I'll remind you of the truth and keep the flame alive in you. And I will be your shield. Yes, I will be your shield. When you are a soldier, when you are a soldier.
Monday, April 4th at 11:42 a.m.
Hey, it's your son. He's calling from Afghanistan. Saying I love you. You can get me on Skype. It's Ergin Osman 2, or you can get me on my Yahoo Messenger, Mom, which is Ergin.Osman. All right, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually got a permanent place now where I got everything. All right, love you, guys.
End of message.
On this Memorial Day, a local family mourning the death of their soldier killed in Afghanistan. U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Ergin Osman of Harrison Township was hit by an improvised explosive device while fighting in the Kandahar province. He was one of 6 U.S. soldiers killed in the attack. Staff Sergeant Osman was based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was 35 years old. He spent 10 years in the Marine Corps and later became an Army Ranger.
This was his 9th deployment. He was in Iraq, Somalia, Kosovo, and Afghanistan.
Sergeant Osman is survived by 2 sons, his wife, parents, and a sister. He practiced the Muslim faith. His family was originally from Turkey. Our condolences go out to them tonight. This is a difficult Memorial Day for the family of a Macomb County soldier killed in Afghanistan.
Ergin Osman was a U.S. Army Ranger who also spent 10 years as a Marine. Fox 2's Bill Gallagher has more on this hometown hero.
U.S. Army Sergeant Ergin Osman died when an improvised explosive device went off. He was a decorated Army Ranger with the 101st Airborne Division serving in Kandahar province in Afghanistan.
He was a very kind young man, very, very big heart, would do anything for anyone, and deeply loved the military.
Ergin was 35 and spent 10 years in the Marine Corps and later joined the Army and fought around the world.
This was his 9th deployment. He was in Iraq, Somalia, Kosovo, and Afghanistan.
Ergin grew up in Sterling Heights but later moved here to Harrison Township where he developed a great love for the water. He enjoyed water sports and actually received 1 decoration at his request on a beach. And he actually declined a Purple Heart after injuring an eardrum.
He said that his injury, there are far more serious injuries out there, and no thank you. So to me that tells you the character of this young man.
Ergin is survived by 2 sons, a wife, his parents, and a sister. He was a Muslim, his family originally from Turkey. He was last home at Christmas time.
I said, whatever you have to do to stay safe, but you come home. He gave me the biggest bear hug, and he had the biggest smile on his face, and he said, yes, ma'am. It's the last words he said to me.
In Harrison Township, Bill Gallagher, Fox 2 News.
Flags will fly at half-staff across the state today in honor of a Harrison Township soldier killed in Afghanistan. Army Staff Sergeant Ergin V Osman was killed on May 26 along with 5 others by a roadside bomb. This was his 9th deployment. Governor Rick Snyder says he'll be remembered as a brave hero who served his country with pride and honor. Staff Sergeant Ergin Osman was 35 years old.
He was born to be in the military.
He was the best shot. He was the best marksmanship out of the Marine Corps. He trained everybody.
Serving first in the Marines and then the Army.
He loved the military. I mean, that was his life. Apparently, he's been wanting to, he idolized his dad. His dad was a Green Beret in Vietnam, and that's something that he wanted to do. He wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps.
Staff Sergeant Ergin Osman, who grew up in Sterling Heights, was killed on Thursday, along with 5 other men. They were attacked when insurgents launched an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan at their unit. He leaves behind many family members, including his mom, Sarah, his ex-wife, Muna, and their 2 little boys, 5-year-old Zarin and 9-year-old Aiden, who is working on a poster as a tribute to his dad.
They know that their daddy is a hero and that he served this country so that way everybody can be free, and that's what we tell them, and they know that. They know that Daddy was over there for a purpose, and Daddy will always be remembered.
Sergeant Osman and his new wife, Kristen, were based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Here in Metro Detroit, his mom was too shaken up to talk, but a close family friend at her home spoke to us about his service and his strengths.
His smile, his warmth when he walked into a room. You know, he was just, he had a massive body and a massive personality that you just loved. You couldn't help liking the young man.
Sergeant Osman will likely be buried here in Metro Detroit, and family members say he'll be in his Marine uniform. In Macomb County, Michael Rosenfield, Channel 7 Action News.
Sergeant Osman loved each one of us. He was a crazy guy, but he was a kind-hearted man. As Sergeant Gilman would say, it was just the front. He might look hard on the outside, but he was a big teddy bear on the inside. He taught me everything I know. He called me Baby Ranger, and he was proud of that. He was a great man. I respected him, saw him as a father figure. All these men were great role models for me being the youngest guy to the team. I will never forget them. I will always respect them, and I will see them again.
My first memory of Sergeant Osman was at the 20th replacement. We showed up there together. The first thing I remember about Oz was me standing in a formation and doing what you do at 20th replacement, and I heard a voice behind me, a deep, raspy voice, giving his uncensored opinion about what he thought of a couple of the lieutenants that were around. And I remember them standing in front of me and talking, probably deciding what they should do about it. And they turned around and got one look at Oz, and I guess they didn't decide to do anything. But that was Oz. He wasn't afraid to say what he thought. He was very proud of being a Marine, being a soldier, being a sniper. Oz was my sniper section leader all throughout the last deployment. Can't really say enough about him and how much of a warrior he was. Pretty much embraced that word to the T. I'm going to miss Oz a lot. I know Jasper and Thornton, they're going to also. That's pretty much all I have to say about Oz.
Miss Sergeant Osman's loud voice, yelling and screaming about every little thing. I'm sorry for your losses, and they'll be greatly missed here.
Sergeant Oz, a lot of people crack jokes about how he was just a big gorilla, but the first thing I noticed about him was how tactically and technically proficient he really was. I mean, he'd spit off nomenclatures like nothing. Really motivated me. It's my biggest motivator. No matter what we were doing, somehow he made it fun. I don't know how. Just to get that big grin on his face.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Task Force Wings Command and soldiers, we welcome you to the memorial ceremony for First Lieutenant John Runkle, Staff Sergeant Ergin Osman, Staff Sergeant Edward Mills, Sergeant Louis Ramos, Sergeant Thomas Bohall, and Specialist Adam Patton. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem sang by Sergeant Snyder and remain standing for the opening invocation given by Chaplain Porter.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's mask gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
Let us pray. Almighty God, grant the peace of mind that assures those who sorrow in time of trouble. Be with us at this time, so that in the midst of our loss, we will have eyes to see your eternal light and goodness, and the blessed security of your presence. We are your children and seek your care. Console us with the assurance of your grace, and give us strength to move forward in our faith. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the presentation of awards in recognition of the soldiers' honorable service to the United States Army. Attention to orders. The Bronze Star Medal is being awarded for exceptional meritorious service while serving as a Pathfinder. Their leadership, commitment to duty, and exemplary performance contributed immensely to the overall success of the task force mission. Their actions are within the finest traditions of military service. Their professionalism, selfless service, and dedication to excellence reflect great credit upon them, Task Force Wings, Task Force Thunder, the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, the United States Forces Afghanistan, and the United States Army. Signed, James L. Terry, Commander, RC South. The Purple Heart is being awarded by the order of the President of the United States of America, established by General George Washington, is awarded for wounds received in action on 26 May 2011. after an IED explosion at an enemy cache site in Afghanistan, given under my hand in the city of Washington, D.C., this 28th day of May 2011, signed the Honorable John McHugh, Secretary of the Army. First Lieutenant Runkle, also being awarded the Combat Infantry Badge. Staff Sergeant Osman. Staff Sergeant Mills. Sergeant Ramos, also being awarded the Combat Field Medical Badge. Sergeant Bohall. Specialist Patton. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Aubus, Task Force Wings Commander.
Family, distinguished guests of Task Force Wings and Thunder, and especially our great Pathfinders, thanks for taking the time following the Memorial Day to celebrate the life, service, and sacrifice of our fallen comrades. These men weren't rock stars or ball players, movie stars or politicians. They were men who joined the Army to serve their country. Most importantly, they lived for us and each other. Men who were husbands and fathers, brothers and sons, friends. We assemble today to remember our fallen heroes while also attempting to bring closure to this tragic event and begin the healing process. Lieutenant John Runkle was a quiet man, even-tempered, who had a great sense of humor, capable and competent. John was quick to step up to help his leadership without prompting. Straight out of Salem, Ohio, West Point, and Ranger School, I sensed a responsible and determined officer destined for greatness in our Army. He was a man who loved his Cleveland Browns, regardless of the losing record, but loved his country, soldiers, and Army even more. Detroit native Sergeant Ergin Osman was truly an infantryman's infantryman, with a Type A personality who loved doing what he did. Former Marine Recon, Staff Sergeant Osman was physically fit platoon sergeant, already benching over 500 pounds in the Mustang ramp gym. The great and wonderful Oz always took time to teach, making those around him better. Staff Sergeant Edward Mills from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, was a patient and caring NCO who didn't yell to get his point across. He was always calm and collected, always knowing what to do. Watching him conduct PCCs and PCIs with you guys, he impressed me with his thoughtful and meticulous preparations. An awesome sense of humor, never-ending PT sessions and training events. Staff Sergeant Mills had his squad well prepared for any mission. One of his fellow Pathfinders remarked to me that if he had a son, he would want him to serve under Staff Sergeant Mills. Sergeant Doc Louis Ramos from Puerto Rico spent countless hours in the gym lifting and talking about baseball and his children. He was a proud father and husband who was thoughtful and contemplative. When he said something, it mattered. A good friend and medic, he would stop whatever he was doing to help out a friend. Sergeant Thomas Bohall never backed down from a challenge and was always willing to have some fun. He had a positive attitude and drive to get the mission accomplished. From Bel Air, Kansas, Sergeant Bohal came across as a polite country boy who was an NCO and a gentleman. Specialist Adam Patton from Port Orchard, Washington, had been in the Pathfinder Company for 3 years. Adam loved to go out to Land Between the Lakes near Fort Campbell and ride his dirt bike and four-wheeler. He had plans to race motocross before he ETS'd the Army in October, and we hope that they have dirt bike tracks in heaven. The debt we owe them for their service can never be fully repaid. These heroes, as well as you, left their families, homes, and comforts of America to burden a cause greater than them. I contend most of us believe God has a purpose for us in all of our lives. And if their purpose was to live with moral and physical courage, lead by example, and leave everlasting friendships, then these great soldiers have fulfilled that purpose. To all the soldiers and civilians today, know that what our comrades did was heroic and will never be forgotten. They will be memorialized in the annals of American and Screaming Eagle history forever. These last few days have been some of the toughest days in our careers. Most have no answers, but we always have sympathy and faith. Sympathy for our fallen heroes, their families, each other, and our fellow soldiers. As I conclude, I am reminded of a line from the Gettysburg Address. The world will no longer remember what we say here today, but it will never forget what they did. The Army has lost superb soldiers. Our battalion has lost outstanding leaders. Most importantly, we have all lost irreplaceable friends. May these Rangers rest in peace, and may God be with their friends and families during these trying times. And may God continue to bless the great United States of America. Rangers, lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Mark A. Hurley, Pathfinder Commander.
Friends, distinguished guests, soldiers, task force wings, task force Thunder, friends of the Pathfinder Company. Thank you for taking the time out to help us celebrate the lives of these great soldiers. Great man once wrote, "Is rather for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that the cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." So the question is, how do you honor these great men who sacrificed so much, that paid the ultimate sacrifice, not only in defense of the country, but their commitment to each other? I think you begin with remembering the unique personality traits as I remember them. Lieutenant Runkle, my quiet platoon leader. I gave him so much grief for wanting to leave the infantry and go teach at West Point. After I sat down and talked to him, he just explained what he wanted to do in his own quiet way, nodded his head, and then I got it and understood why he wanted to teach. Staff Sergeant Osman, the Oz, he and I were like brothers. Both of us were from Detroit, both of us served in the Marine Corps, both of us were reconnaissance, and our outlook on stuff was the same. The Oz was always proud of his physical fitness and would brag about it. And just to get him to be quiet, I tell him, "Oz," and you still haven't beat me on a PT test. He'd bulk up in front of me and utter his choice phrase, "F it, sir, just F it, I'll get you one of these days." Staff Sergeant Mills, my quiet professional, he got more out of his men by just talking to them like they were his brothers, not yelling, and a particular way of getting his point across to me without being pushy. Sergeant Ramos, the man who I had to tell when he got excited, "Hey, I don't understand Spanglish. I don't have the Ramos to English dictionary, so you got to slow down and talk to me." Sergeant Bohal, the man who knew how to push my buttons because he would brag about his Nashville Predators since I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan and would constantly talk about the Predators even though they're a losing team. And Specialist Patton, my quiet soldier who seemed quiet from the outside, but he was quite the party animal when he was on his own time. He was set to ETS in October, was set to leave the country on 7 June, begin his college career. So, the burning question still remains, how do we honor men such as these? We honor these men by not letting up, but continuing with the mission no matter how painful or difficult it is. We pursue the enemy until we find him, fix him, and destroy him. We continue after him until he no longer has the will to fight or resist. We do not hide in the face of adversity. We do not become risk averse. This is how we honor our 6 fallen brothers. Today we honor our 6 fallen brothers, and we will never forget the sacrifice that they made, not only for our country, but for each other. I think that Plutarch summed it up best by saying, the Spartans do not ask how many there are enemy, but where are they? And that is how these 6 continued each day. You will never be forgotten. Take the high ground, set up a patrol base, secure until we meet again, my friends. Rangers lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant Platt.
First time I met John Runkle was at Ranger School. Temperature was somewhere around 10 degrees, and we were freezing to death on the rocks. Conversation turned from, when do we eat, to where are you from, and where are you going? When he said he was going to be stationed at Fort Campbell, he had orders to 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. I asked him if he was an infantry officer. He thought his orders were a mistake. I told him Pathfinder Company and how it belonged to brigade. Jokingly, I also told him he'd probably be my PL. 3 months later, he signed into the company. Lieutenant Runkle was a quiet, even man, even-tempered man. We made fun of him. We laughed about how shy he was. But he would always take the joke. And even when you least expected it, he would throw one back. May you forever walk in the halls of Valhalla. Rangers lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Specialist McMillan.
Staff Sergeant Osman. Staff Sergeant Osman was a true soldier. If there was one thing that he was proud of it was a soldier in the infantry. He loved the fact that he was a Marine and a Ranger. He loved to tell stories of when he was in recon, even if some of them seem a little far-fetched. He was a great man. My fondest memories of him were when he would try to jump ditches and epically fail. And no matter when it happened, I would always witness it. His greatest enemy was the opposite side of the ditch. No matter how hard he trained, that was one skill he could not acquire. He respected each and every one in our platoon. He was a proud man and a tough one. Even when we would mess up, he would yell at us, and in a weird way, he would apologize by going off on a tangent about what he did in recon and what he learned from his mistakes. We all looked up to him, respected him, saw him as a father figure, a crazy one at that. He will be missed by his friends, family, and his co-workers. Thank you for being the man and the role model you were. Rangers lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Thornton.
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. I'm also going to be talking on Sergeant Oz's behalf. I'm proud to be here to speak about Sergeant Osman today. Sergeant Osman was not a man to be reckoned with. He was my role model, my squad leader, my sniper team leader, my ranger buddy, and most of all, my friend. He started his career in the United States Marine Corps, where he served for 11 years as an 0311 infantryman, while stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. While serving in the Marines, he set himself apart from the rest by graduating from as many career developing courses as he could. He prided himself on being better than his peers. He came into the Army in the fall of 2007 because he didn't want to be separated from his soldiers with a desk job. I remember the first time I met Oz. He just got back from Ranger School, and I was just a new specialist to the company. Before he graduated school, all the NCOs warned me about how prideful he was about reconnaissance and how he would destroy my world because I had a recon tattoo from my old scout platoon in the 82nd. I remember the first time when I met him, when he approached me, he told me to show him my arm. I could admit he was twice my size and very intimidating. He didn't scuff me up like everybody said he would. Instead, he reached out and shook my hand and said, "Welcome, bro." Me and Oz shared a strong bond, as I'm sure most of the guys in the company do also. He loved his soldiers and his NCOs almost as much as he did his own family. He was a great father to his sons and a loving husband to his wife. He stood up for what he believed in when it came to his men, even if it involved telling someone of higher rank to get bent. This company wouldn't be here today if it weren't for his skills and knowledge. He took time out of his day and stayed late at night to ensure tactical proficiency and training for all the men in the company. He loved to take the fight to the enemy's doorstep. His vast knowledge came from experience and training as an instructor and also as a Marine. We all used to make fun of him, checking himself out in the mirror practicing transitions from rifle to pistol. But in the end, he could outshoot any person put up against him. He might have been loud and scary to some, but he was a very caring man. He would give you the shirt off his back and the last dollar in his wallet if it meant your safety and well-being. Anyone who knew Sergeant Osman knew he liked rock music, tattoos, going to the gym, and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. And most importantly, he loved his hair gel and tight t-shirts. I've learned a lot from Oz, as well as the rest of the guys in the company. He touched the lives of everyone he met. He will be greatly missed. If he were here today, he would tell us to quit being such a Sally and man up. He had a way of making the best out of any situation. Oz was an outstanding person, a great NCO, and the best mentor a man can ask for. In my book, Sergeant Osman will always and will forever live on as a legend in the Pathfinder Company history. Rangers lead the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, special show. Staff Sergeant Edward Mills. When I first came to the company, Staff Sergeant Mills was my first squad leader. I wasn't thought of as the brightest soldier, but he took a different approach towards me instead of yelling. He would take me aside, talk to me like a man. That is what I was always remember him for, being the calm, collective leader that he was, that no matter what problems came up for me, he always knew what to do and how to spin it to where he could put out other information in a smooth manner and in a way that was always easily understood by me and everyone else in the platoon. Regardless of the situation or whatever was going on, he always had a smile and some funny joke or comment that followed along with his unique laugh. The laugh could always make you stop whatever you were doing and look at him and just smile. Even with his awesome sense of humor, slight build, and never-ending PT training, it always had us ready for anything and even more ready for bed. He was the toughest person and greatest man that I have ever had the privilege of knowing. If I should ever have a son that wants to join the Army, there is no other NCO that would rather him serve with than someone like Staff Sergeant Edward Mills. Ladies and gentlemen, PFC Marchetti.
Over the past few months, I've had the honor and the privilege of getting to know Doc Ramos. I spent countless hours going to the gym with him. We would talk about baseball, we would lift weights. He was so proud of his boys. Every Facebook post he would get, he would show me and read off his older son's stats and tell me about the wins, the losses. I would always ask him what it meant because his Facebook post would be in Spanish. Ramos would have stopped anything he was doing to help you out. It's just the kind of guy he was. He was very involved, even if what he was doing was more important. I always remember him as a proud father and a proud husband. Without a doubt, Sergeant Ramos is one of the best men I've ever been able to get to know.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Ruiz.
Sergeant Ramos and I, Luis, I called him, met in 2008. Immediately we became good friends and colleagues. We had a bond. We were both Puerto Rican and both medics. Luis was my Spanish-speaking buddy. He was and still is my close friend, confidant, and a hard-charging medic. He did what he believed in. He loved being a medic. To his wife Yesenia and children, Louis, Pedro, and Sheila, I cannot imagine how you feel in this tough time. Words cannot express how we feel. Always know that Louis will be remembered as a great husband, father, friend, and soldier medic. For us combat medics, the term doc isn't earned with a fancy degree. It's earned by earning the respect and confidence of your men. As Louis did, combat medics will always come for you. The United States Army, our Pathfinder Company, and our small island of Puerto Rico have truly lost a shining star. In closing, I'd like to say, Pathfinder 3 Mike, Sergeant Luis Ramos, mi amigo, mi pana, que en paz descanse, te amo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Specialist Blake Knott.
Sergeant Bohol and I really didn't get to know each other that well until we deployed. Since then, we've only grown closer. He was the type of guy that never backed down from a challenge. If you were bored, he was the one you could count on to play hockey on the Xbox or deal some cards. Whatever you were in the mood to do, he was always willing to have some fun. At the same time, if you needed to talk to someone, he would sit and listen until the sun came up and someone was yelling to get back to work. At work, Bohol always presented a positive attitude. He wanted to get the job done fast and well, even if it was only so he could get back and do something else. His drive was sometimes a bit much, even for me, but that is a fault that we could all use in our lives. He would regularly leave his light on and read late into the night with his light shining directly on my face. When he finally did pass out, light still on, I'd take out the light bulb and hide it from him. He wasn't very good at finding light bulbs, but as a good NCO, he made sure he had an endless supply. In his last week, Bohal and I spent countless hours talking, smoking, and playing cards. We even planned to take a trip to Vegas when we got back. I won't be taking that trip anymore, but I will never forget Sergeant Bohal, my brother in arms, my mentor, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, Special Sevens.
Specialist Adam Patton and I came to the company about 3 years ago. Since day one, we were the best of friends, but I would say that it was after we got back from our first deployment that we grew the closest. One of our favorite things to do was to go out to LBL and go trail riding. And he would always leave me in the dust. And that's just how Adam was. I would say, along with his family and friends, motocross is what he was most passionate about. We had plans of going to motocross races when we got back from deployment. Before we ETS together, in October, he was also supposed to attend my wedding. No matter what, Adam will always be thought of as a brother, and I'll miss him dearly. The memories that we had together will always bring smiles to our faces. I know Adam will be watching over all of us, making sure we were having fun and living life to the fullest.
Ladies and gentlemen, Private First Class Michael Thompson recites Psalms 23 from the Bible.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Porter will give the memorial message, followed by Amazing Grace.
We have gathered here to remember and honor our fallen heroes. These 6 men were more than soldiers. They were our friends, our brothers. As we remember these men, our hearts and prayers go out to their families in their time of grief and sorrow. May God comfort them and grant them peace. One of the best ways for us to honor these fallen brothers and respect their families is to grow stronger through this experience. We have 2 resources to help us grieve in a healthy way and grow through this tragedy. First, we have each other. As we experience sorrow and emotions that come when we face tragedy, we need to rely on each other. Don't carry the burden of grief alone. The scripture teaches, though one may be overpowered by another, 2 can withstand him, and a 3-fold cord cannot quickly be broken. We are here together because we need each other. The second resource we have is God. Sometimes when we're experiencing the dark times of life, it seems as though God has abandoned us, but he has not. Take comfort from these famous words. One night I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes from my life flashed across the sky. In each scene I noticed footprints in the sand. Sometimes there were 2 sets of footprints. Other times there was only one. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life, when I was suffering from anguish, sorrow, or defeat, I could only see 1 set of footprints. So I said to the Lord, "You promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always. But I have noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there have only been 1 set of footprints in the sand. Why, when I needed you the most, have you not been there for me?" The Lord replied, "The years when you have not seen 2 sets of footprints, my child, is when I carried you." My prayer for us is that through this time, we can gain comfort and strength from each other and the Lord. And I trust that God will carry us through to brighter days ahead. God bless you. God bless our families. And God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the benediction and remain standing for the final roll call, firing of volleys, and the playing of taps.
Now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. This concludes the memorial ceremony. Please remain seated until the command group and official party pay their final respects and depart. Thank you for attending the ceremony.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Major General John F. Campbell, Commanding General, and Command Sergeant Major Scott C. Schroeder, Post Sergeant Major, welcome to the Eagle Remembrance Ceremony. This afternoon's ceremony is hosted by Brigadier General Jeffrey N. Colt, Deputy Commanding General for Support, 101st Airborne Division Air Assault. Today we have gathered to pay a solemn tribute to the soldiers who have made the ultimate sacrifice and to remember and pray for the soldiers still serving in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation New Dawn. This afternoon's ceremony will be presided over by chaplains from the Installation Chaplain's Office. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the opening invocation delivered by Chaplain Edward Coy.
Let us join together in prayer. Most gracious God, as we pause for the day, our hearts and our minds become flooded with so many thoughts of the loved ones that we have come to honor and to share, the thoughts and the memories, the laughter and the sadness that comes to our heart as we continue this afternoon. In a special way that we may not be able to comprehend, God, we ask for a peace, a resolve, that as we share the memories, as we talk about the day, we come to understand that it is not just this day, but it's eternity that we get to share because of the love that's been given and those whom serve this nation and have sacrificed their life for our freedom. We truly love you, and we've come to be together and to embrace the memory, the thought, and the grace that's been extended by these soldiers. And so it is, Lord. We come in your Son's name. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Jeffrey N. Colt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, friends, soldiers and families at 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, and most importantly, to our families of our fallen heroes that we all gather to honor here today. Thank you all for joining us as we pay tribute to 7 courageous Screaming Eagles, all selfless volunteers, their names immortalized in our division's Hall of Heroes, joining 121 others from the current and ongoing Rendezvous with Destiny. This small gesture serves as a powerful and timeless gesture. It's a reminder that whether it was in Normandy in 1944 or Afghanistan in 2010 or 11, these very special Screaming Eagles gave their last full measure of devotion in their service and defense of this great nation and this historic division. For our families here today, those who have lost a loved one, I recognize that my words will never fill that void. But please know this, that your loved ones, they were and they are respected. They were and they are loved like family. They set an example of courage, commitment, and hard work. They achieved much, and they made a difference. What they did and their sacrifices and the sacrifices they made mattered. And most assuredly, this band of brothers and sisters will never be forgotten. We recognize that soldiers volunteer, but we recognize that families serve and sacrifice. For more than 236 years, volunteers have answered the call to serve and support their nation's Army. And these heroes and their families that we honor here today represent the great mosaic that we call America. Families that have come from Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Alabama, Colorado, Ohio, Michigan, Washington, and Florida, and many cities in between. They reflect the greatest and most selfless qualities, and they personify the patriotism and passion born in our citizenry and our Army more than 236 years ago. Today's honorees, through their many shared experiences and sacrifices with their families, their friends, and their fellow soldiers, were integral in not just shaping lives, but in many respects, changing them through the relationships they made. Today we begin by honoring the remaining 2 of 6 lifeliners, tragically fallen on the 16th of April in a cowardly suicide attack while these lifeliners were working diligently shoulder to shoulder to advance the development of Afghan security partners, a critical effort that they both fully embraced with extraordinary professionalism. We remember Sergeant First Class Charles L. Adkins, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 101st Special Troops Battalion, 101st Sustainment Brigade. While most of the Army knew him as Sergeant First Class Charles Adkins, his friends knew him as Diesel, or Chuck. Diesel was the perfect name for him because he was big, strong, and had the strength and courage to go anywhere and do anything. He was a dynamic leader, unwilling to hold back if he recognized something was wrong. You always knew when he was near because he had the kind of personality that just filled a room. He was the kind of person that could make everyone laugh so hard that they ended up crying. And that was Chuck's trademark. He always wanted to make people happy. Not only did he have a great sense of humor and a passion for golf, fishing, and sports, he had a profound love for his family. He was a loving father and a true friend. Chuck was the kind of man who would solve any problem for anyone, and he'd stand by them until the end. Words can never express what Chuck meant to everyone. He lived his life to the fullest and would have had it no other way. We also recognize Sergeant Linda L. Pierre, Headquarters and Headquarters Company for 101st Special Troops Battalion, 101st Sustainment Brigade. Passion, determination, vigilance, faithfulness, and self-reliance. These are just a few of the words to best describe Sergeant Linda Pierre, LP as she was known to her friends. She had a determination and a work ethic unmatched by peers, allowing her to succeed at every task presented to her. Sergeant Pierre wasn't just a remarkable soldier, she was also the type of person that once she knew them, she would also catch them off guard with a joke or a silly saying. She was also a very loving and giving person, strong in her spiritual faith, rather. She was someone you could depend on through the good and the bad. Linda never worried about her future. She simply placed all matters in God's hands, no matter what the situation. She was a spiritual battle buddy. LP was there with a kind word and an open heart. She was a great NCO, an outstanding colleague, and an even better friend. Today we also honor four of our 6 fallen Pathfinders, tragically taken from us on May 26th. These Pathfinders were patrolling to find, fix, and remove bomb-making materials that would have been used to savagely and indiscriminately against U.S. and Afghan security forces and peacekeeping and peace-seeking Afghan men, women, and children. These extraordinary men truly epitomize what it means to be an air assault soldier. From the 159th Combat Aviation Brigade Thunder, Staff Sergeant Edward D. Mills, Jr., Fox Company, Pathfinder, 4th Battalion, 101st Aviation Regiment. Staff Sergeant Mills was the definition of a quiet professional, confident, compassionate, with superb technical and tactical expertise. He had an infectious intensity in everything that he did, whether work or play. Eddie was a man of action. In the words of his friends, one of the greatest men you'd ever want to meet. The recurring theme in speaking with the people who knew Eddie personally, whether family, friends, or fellow soldiers, was just how incredible a person he really was. Not only was he the most experienced of squad leaders in the Pathfinders, he was considered one of the best units teachers and most caring NCOs. He had a great heart, and he was willing to give everything to anyone in need. One of his friends said it best, "I don't believe there'll ever be another non-commissioned officer that was as outstanding as Staff Sergeant Mills." Staff Sergeant Ergin V Osman, Fox Company Pathfinder, 4th Battalion, 101st Aviation Battalion. Described by his soldiers as an excellent platoon sergeant and an outstanding person. Staff Sergeant Osman was tough but fair. He was a powerhouse, the type of person that had the ability to make a bad situation better through force of personality and sheer confidence in his own abilities. One of his soldier believes that no one scared more privates than Staff Sergeant Osman, and he always seemed to do that with a smile on his face. That was the sort of leader he was, both caring yet strict. He understood that for soldiers to succeed in war, they must be disciplined in training. He was his platoon sergeant's father figure, never allowing anyone to mess with his soldiers, preferring instead to take the punishment himself, then issue the correction in his own manner. However, not only was he a superb warrior and an excellent leader, he was a caring father who loved his 2 sons dearly. It was his intense love for his boys that made him a great NCO, because he loved his soldiers much as he loved his own family. He has the eternal love and respect of his men, any of whom would seek to live, serve, and fight beside him again. Sergeant Luis Ramos Velasquez, Fox Company Pathfinder, 4th Battalion, 101st Aviation Regiment. Known as Doc to his teammates, Sergeant Ramos was an amazing medic and an even more awesome person. He went far beyond to ensure everyone was well, both mentally and physically. He cared so much about the welfare of his teammates and friends. Friendly and easygoing, Sergeant Ramos was a big-hearted man who placed the needs of others always before his own and was always willing to help them in any way he could. As much as he gave to his fellow soldiers, Sergeant Ramos lived for his family. The recurring theme in everyone's recollection of Doc was his intense pride that he had for his wife, 2 sons, and his daughter. He was always telling everyone who would listen about his children's accomplishments. An avid baseball lover, he enjoyed nothing more than spending time with those precious moments with his sons and those who love the game. Specialist Adam J. Patton, Fox Company, Pathfinder, 4th Battalion, 101st Aviation Regiment. In the words of his leadership, Specialist Patton was one of the best soldiers anyone could ask for. With a giant heart, he was smart, hardworking, and could always get the job done regardless of the difficulty. While he was an outstanding soldier and an excellent radioman, to those who knew him, he was above all a great friend. If someone was in need, he was the first to offer assistance. His upbeat attitude and infectious smile always seemed to cheer everyone up, regardless of the situation. A lover of dirt bikes, Taylor Swift, go figure, and Harry Potter, Specialist Patton was always on the lookout for fun. And if fun wasn't available, his friends counted on him to make some. One of his friends, while in the midst of personal troubles, fondly remembers Specialist Patton sitting down and just listening without judgment. This was the kind of individual Specialist Patton was. He was the best friend someone could ever have, and there will never be another person better or a better soldier. And perhaps most appropriately, we close today by honoring from the 2nd Brigade Combat Team Strike, Corporal Brandon M. Curtin, Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion, 502nd Infantry Regiment. A veteran of multiple deployments, Corporal Curtin was a very talented and valued member of the strike team. As a leader, Corporal Curtin was always out front, choosing the hardest and most difficult tasks to set the example for what right looks like. According to his platoon leader, Corporal Curtin was the type of soldier you yearned to have. Not only was he fearless in the face of danger and passionate about his job, he was also loyal to the very end. Exhaustion was not a word in his vocabulary. Brandon was always ensured that every task was complete before even thinking of taking a rest. An unrepentant practical joker, Brandon's passion extended far beyond the rigors of his profession, as clearly evidenced by his love that he held for his family. He wanted nothing more than to return home to his beloved fiancée, Charity, and his infant daughter, Heaven Lee. That's Heaven Lee, not Heavenly, okay? Because they were the driving force that gave him the energy to last every day that he was deployed. You see, I saved him for last, in fact, because Corporal Curtin bravely fell on his final patrol. In fact, few events could probably serve as a more vivid reminder to us just how life's tremendous uncertainties are. A call to remember and appreciate the moments we've been blessed to have in the company of these heroes. These young eagles lived our warrior ethos. They never quit. They lived tragically shortened lives, and they leave legacies that will live with us for a very, very long time. Never should we forget their sacrifices these exceptional soldiers and their families have made for all of us. May God bless these heroes, their families, and this great nation. Thank you again for attending.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Trey Vaughn.
Today's scripture reading is from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verses 17 and 18, and 35 and 37, along with 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. Verse 17, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? Yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. This talks about the resurrection. For we know that if our earthly house, this tent, our body, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation, which is from heaven. If indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who know are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. Now, he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who also has given us the Spirit as a guarantee. So we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. Blessed be the reading of the Word.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the reading of the names, a moment of honoring silence, and remain standing for the playing of Amazing Grace and Taps. The lighting of the candle this afternoon is significant in that its symbolic light represents the light of freedom that shines even in the darkest of times. It is through the sacrifice of the few that the many may enjoy this light for generations to come. That is why at this time we wish to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in defending the beliefs and principles of this great nation. Benjamin Disraeli once said, "The legacy of heroes is in the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example." And so this afternoon we remember the great examples set by Sergeant First Class Charles L. Atkins, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 101st Special Troops Battalion, 101st Sustainment Brigade. Staff Sergeant Edward D. Mills, Fox Company, 4th of the 101st Aviation Regiment, 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. Staff Sergeant Ergin V. Osman, Fox Company, 4th of the 101st Aviation Regiment, 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. Sergeant Linda L. Pierre, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 101st Special Troops Battalion, 101st Sustainment Brigade. Sergeant Louis A. Ramos, Fox Company, 4th of the 101st Aviation Regiment, 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. Corporal Brandon M. Curtin, Charlie Company, 2nd of the 502nd Infantry Regiment, 2nd Brigade Combat Team. Specialist Adam J. Patton, Fox Company, 4th of the 101st Aviation Regiment, 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the benediction delivered by Chaplain Trey Vaughn.
Let us pray. Eternal One above, at this time we ask for your peace and understanding. Help us to get through our grief. We need your wise counsel. We remain together as one, honoring our heroes who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. You have given us these brave soldiers to know, love, and cherish. We shall never forget their loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. These are values, and these values, in essence, are legacies. We know, Father, that values are easy to quote, but challenging to live out and to pass on to others. This is exactly what our beloved brothers and sister did. They lived a life of significance, of meaning, and of value. Thank you, Lord, for giving us them to know and to love. We have come here to commemorate their lives, and we shall never forget their profound impact. Bless us as we soon depart, and keep us in your grace, peace, and love. It's all these things we do pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated while the family and command group pay their respects and depart the area. Ladies and gentlemen, as the usher indicates your row, those wishing to pay their respects may do so by forming 2 single file lines on the red carpet. Anyone not wanting to pay respects, please leave the ceremony area quietly, continuing to pay reverence to our fallen comrades. As a reminder, if you would like to sign the remembrance books, they are located through the double doors to the left of this room.